Yeah. 3-6, mafia.
Whoa, hey, yeah. Whoa, say what? Whoa, 3-6 mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club, in the street. Y'all know what time it is. Get ready for it. Oh, strong man alive. Waiting to be wet. Step up, bring it. Yes, sir.
Somebody gon' get their ass kicked. Somebody gon' get their wig split. Somebody gon' get their ass kicked. Somebody.
Good evening, folks, and happy Aloha Friday to all of you guys out there. Welcome in to a brand new episode of No BS. This is season 3, episode 7 of No BS. Isaiah Leon coming to you live from the Bay Area. I got my man John Alcorn tonight joining me from Texas. First of all, John, we are doing this program at a very different time tonight because of some stuff that came up earlier in the day. But hey, we still got the program coming to the audience out there, the MI6 fam. Great to be with you guys all. But John, thank you so much for joining me tonight and filling in for Trevor and Furman. How are you doing on tonight's episode?
Well, my man, I'm exhausted, but I'm here. It's fun. I'm talking football, but I'm excited about one of these topics here. I think you know which one on the list that I can't wait to get into.
Oh yeah, I already know which one that you're talking about. But before we get into tonight's episode, just want to give a quick reminder out to you guys. If you guys haven't yet, please go check out our MI6 Sports Network YouTube channel. We have some new stuff going on in that channel. We have, the MI6 short clips that we're doing now, where we're taking every single show that we do here on the network, and we're just going to clip every single segment and just post each segment on to our YouTube channel. Like last night, or not last night, but a couple of weeks ago, we had a segment about Jason Tatum and his, comments saying that he's still suffering the after effects of COVID-19, and me, John Alcorn, and Jonathan Mathis, we gave our thoughts on that. And now that video, that segment is now up on the MI6 YouTube channel. We're going to have more of those coming shortly, but I think that that's a great addition to the MI6 Sports Network, because I know right now, especially in our generation, we have a lot of people that have or our generation has really short attention spans. So instead of having to watch the entire hour and a half, or even sometimes 2-hour long episodes, you guys can just watch those segments instead of the long episodes. But go check that out. Give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel. We would really appreciate that. And also, if you guys are watching on Facebook, like our Facebook page, follow us on Facebook for the latest going on here on the MI6 Sports Network. And one more last thing before I turn it over to John to host tonight's program. I got to give a shout out real quick to the people at BART. I rode, if you guys don't know what BART is the Bay Area subway train here in the Bay Area. And I got to give them a shout out, because normally when you go to whatever public transportation that you ride and you ask them for something, you don't really expect the thing that they give you to be in good quality. It's like sometimes you just want it to be an okay quality. And I forgot my mask the other day, and I was really hallucinating and worrying about if I could get on the train, because I had to go to an important job interview. And I asked the station agent if they could give me one of their free masks that they're giving out. And They gave me one hell of a mask. I mean, this mask is, I think, better than the mask that I currently have. It's a cloth mask. It's really soft, really comfortable, made out of cotton, and it's just like putting a t-shirt over your face. It's better than the regular mask that I have currently. But John, it's all yours, man. Take it away, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the quarterback drama, like soap opera of the NFL here. Seattle has more quarterback drama this time with Russell Wilson clashing with Pete Carroll. Multiple things saying that he wants more input with the organization and talking about potential trade options. Like I talked about, what hopefully get Jake Asman to talk about this. Isaiah, there are 4 teams here: the Chicago Bears, the Dallas Cowboys. The Raiders are off the list just because they're signing that deal with Derek Carr. And the last one is the New Orleans Saints. My question to you is, before I give my full thought about this, is what is the reaction to the Russell Wilson drama, and which teams on Russell Wilson's list do you see as a strong possibility?
Well, I'm going to go to your first question first about my reaction to this drama. I think the Seahawks are being pathetic. Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's the face of your franchise. He's led you to so much success in your franchise. He's led you to unprecedented success in your franchise. You won a Super Bowl with him. You went to another Super Bowl with him. You went to a couple of NFC championships with him. Before Russell Wilson, the Seahawks were irrelevant. Russell Wilson came in, and him and Pete Carroll completely changed that organization for the better. And Russell Wilson, I mean, the things that he wants is he just wants more input when it comes to the offense and what kind of scheme the Seahawks are going to run. Pete Carroll allegedly wants to, run an old school, run heavy style of offense. Russell Wilson wants to run, a modern day Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay type of a scheme. And also another issue that they have is that Russell Wilson has issues with the Seahawks not addressing the offensive line, and also Russell Wilson just wants, a little bit more say in terms of personnel. He doesn't want, final say in terms of personnel, but he just wants a little bit more say in terms of that department. And I just think the Seahawks are being pathetic because this dude deserves it. This dude, like I said earlier, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's brought you unprecedented success in your organization, and he's done all you can ask for as a Seattle Seahawk, and he's so humble. He's a guy that doesn't get in trouble off the field. He deserves what he wants right now from the Seahawks, and I think for the Seahawks, it would be for the better if they ditch that offense that they currently run, which is a run-heavy type of a scheme, for a more modern-day Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur type offense that they're running currently in the NFL. I think Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and those weapons that they have in Seattle would thrive with that kind of an offense instead of that old school offense. I really think that the Seahawks should definitely take Wilson's input in terms of the offense. And then I believe that the Seahawks also should give, or they should, definitely give Russell Wilson more protection up front, because, Russell Wilson, he's a guy that, he can run around and escape pressure, but still, the guy's being sacked a lot right now, and you never want your quarterback to be sacked like as much as what Russell Wilson has been getting sacked, because if you do, he's not going to last long. You look at Joe Burrow. Look at all the hits that Joe Burrow took in his rookie season. He ended up getting a torn ACL because of it. So I believe that the Seahawks definitely should stop being pathetic and stop being petty and just give Russell Wilson, let Russell Wilson call plays like James Gonzalez mentions in his comment. Let him call plays on offense. Let him dictate what the offense should be. And also, just give him more protection up front, because right now, that's what I think is holding the Seattle Seahawks back, is that the fact that, like you saw in the Rams game in the playoffs, the Rams completely ate up the Seattle Seahawks offensive line. Russell Wilson was in trouble all day long, and when you give Russell Wilson time to throw the football and time to operate, the guy is just a monster. So I do believe that the Seahawks should stop being pathetic. I do believe that they should give Russell Wilson what he wants. This guy deserves it. And in terms of, your question about the 4 teams that he has on the list, I believe the teams are the Bears, the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Saints. John, I wouldn't rule out the Raiders so fast because that Derek Carr deal is just rumors. They haven't officially signed that contract yet, so we don't know if they're going to get something done or not. But in terms of these 4 teams, I would say New Orleans, because out of all these 4 teams, I think for the Bears, I think Matt Nagy is gone next season because I really don't see the Bears doing anything next season. The Raiders, John Gruden, if Russell Wilson wants to escape Seattle and escape that run-heavy offense with Pete Carroll, going to the Raiders would be it wouldn't really help him because John Gruden runs the same kind of offense that Pete Carroll runs in Seattle. The Raiders, they like to go run heavy with Derek Carr. So I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. The Cowboys, I think that would be an intriguing fit because you have Amari Cooper, you have Zeke, you have weapons, you have a pretty good offensive line in Dallas. But, that situation is also toxic with Jerry Jones and his son Stephen Jones running the show. So I would say New Orleans, because right now you've got Michael Thomas, you've got the weapons on offense, you've got a really good offensive-minded coach in Sean Payton who works wonders with quarterbacks. I think New Orleans would be a perfect fit for Russell Wilson. And if Wilson goes to the New Orleans Saints, my gosh, I think New Orleans might be the runaway favorites to win it in the NFC. I mean, that's just how good Russell Wilson is right now. But there is one thing that I'm going to throw out there. I don't know how the cap will work, John, so don't freak out at me for throwing this potential trade out there. How about a Russell Wilson to Dallas for Dak Prescott trade? I don't know how the numbers would work out, but you trade one disgruntled quarterback to another situation in exchange for another disgruntled quarterback. So I mean, if I'm the Cowboys and if the numbers were to work out, I could see that, and it would be a good move because Cowboys get Russell Wilson. They don't have to pay an injured Dak Prescott $40 million a year, and Seattle gets a replacement for Russell Wilson. That's not really a drop-off, that bad of a drop-off for Russell Wilson. So I think that for me, I would go with New Orleans, but Dallas really intrigues me.
Let me say about the teams first. None of them on the list. Washington. Folks, Washington was a playoff team last year. I understand you can say, oh, it's the NFC at least. Fair enough, but you had Chase Young. You had those guys on that defense. Alex Smith is doing what he does at the quarterback position. They had the running game. They have Terry McLaurin. You have a receiver. You're also extending talks with your starting right guard, the offensive line, folks. 394 times since Russell Wilson's been in the NFL. That's how many times he's been sacked. Nobody since Russell Wilson entering the NFL has been sacked so many times. You can say, oh my gosh, he's being a diva. If you want a great example of not just a quarterback, screw that. No, as a man, on and off the field, Russell Wilson is the best example we can have in the NFL. This is a guy that's a man of God, does what he does. You can say, oh, he's been a diva. You can say diva, all these things. He's been a control freak. In my opinion, he is deserved to a certain extent, not final say, but deserves some say of, hey, this is what I think we should do. This is what I think we could do. I do believe Russell Wilson deserves some input. Think about what Russell Wilson has been through. Also, the GM of the Seattle Seahawks, I believe is it John Snyder? I may be completely butchering his name.
John Schneider is correct.
He should be fired. Why is he still there? If you're being honest, because to a certain extent, you can go back to the ownership. Then it's the ownership, then it goes to the GM. What has John Snyder done since the Legion of Boom has been broken up? You can continue talking about the run-heavy offense and all these different types of things. John Snyder needs to be fired because the type of decisions you make as a GM sets the Seattle Seahawks doom. It's setting them up for failure here. Because you see how Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, they start off great in the beginning of the year. Russell Wilson MVP, still a phenomenal elite quarterback. then you see towards the middle of the season and go on, you see the struggling of the offensive line. The pass or the run heavy offense starts to kind of take a toll on you completely. I don't believe he'll be traded, but if he does, I'm gonna have to say Washington. They have that defense. Again, Edward, I agree. Why isn't anybody talking about this? John Snyder, the GM, needs to be fired tomorrow. Washington has the defense. You have Terry McLaurin. You have some decent tight ends. You have the running game. You're addressing the offensive line. You have, I believe, $65+ million in cap space. So you address the offensive line. You get Russell. Again, it's hypothetical. I don't believe he'll be traded, but I believe sooner or later Russell Wilson will sit out. But Washington, I believe, is the best fit. You have the defense. The offensive line is improving. You have Ron Rivera as head coach. I understand towards the end of Carolina, totally different story. But I'm a fan of Ron Rivera. His story, the warrior mentality that he has. He beat cancer. He was coaching during the 2020 NFL season when they were working with coronavirus. When do we play this game? How do we practice? When can we not practice? All these different things. Washington, I believe, would be the perfect fit if he were to be traded. But I think it's just like the soap opera scripts on TV shows. It's going nowhere. I think this is just a bunch of drama. I think they'll cave in. Because at some point, as much as I would love Russell Wilson to be traded, the way his contract is set up, there's too much money. What even team that would have the cap? Yes, they would have the cap, but then they still have to address the other players too. So Russell Wilson and any team that wants to trade for him, I without a doubt agree. But the cap hit, not because of what Russell can't do, it is the amount of money his contract is going to do against the cap, especially this year when the cap is under $190 million for all NFL teams due to little to no revenue. I may have the number wrong, so about $180 million, give or take. So a lot of teams have less money. So Washington at this bet would be the favorite because you look at the Saints, which would be interesting. Drew Brees is taking the veteran league minimum as he's most likely going to retire. So got Michael Thomas's contract. Alvin Kamara, what do you do on the defensive side of the ball? Cameron Jordan's getting older. There's just so many different questions. I say Washington, but again, cap hit. The drama to me literally means nothing. And I know it's going to be, oh my gosh, this is what I would do. This is a thing. What happened to Pete Carroll at USC? He lost against UT, buddy. That I had to throw shade at him a little bit. Again, great coach, great man. But I'm saying we saw this towards the end of his career at USC where they had a lot of success. But towards the end, you see these mistakes again and again and again. You don't get a Russell Wilson that often in the NFL. Remember, here's a third-round pick. Remember, Matt Flynn was competing for him for the starting job. They've been to the playoffs again and again. But again, my final thought on this, I give this drama little to nothing because this is just another story. I believe they will give him some input here. But the question is, if they don't fire the GM, could there be more to this in the future than what we realize? And Ishmael, I agree. I would fire Pete Carroll before trading West. I agree. But it goes back to even if you fire Pete Carroll and trade Russell Wilson for whatever way, the amount of money that is against the cap for whatever team he goes to is going to be a problem.
I agree with Ishmael on that too. I would fire Pete Carroll before I trade Russell Wilson because, like you said, John, Russell Wilson doesn't grow on trees. You don't find a Russell Wilson type quarterback that often in the NFL. It is very, very hard to find that type of quarterback. So Seattle, they need to do whatever they can to patch the relationship up right now with Russell Wilson. Because you look at other teams right now, like the 49ers, the Bears, and all these teams, like they have their quarterback, but their quarterback is not that good, and like they're all looking for quarterbacks right now. You do not want to be in that situation as teams like the Niners and the Bears. So definitely, I would definitely fire the coach before I trade Russell Wilson. Trading Russell Wilson has to be like the last option. If it gets to like a Deshaun Watson situation in which Russell Wilson is not answering any calls and he's holding out for or sitting out the entire season, then like you can entertain and get offers for trading Russell Wilson. But right now, it's got to be general manager, then head coach, and then Russell Wilson before you trade Russell Wilson.
Oh wait, you could get the first round pick this year to address the offensive line. Oh wait, no, you traded it away. Oh, you got a first round pick next year to address the offensive line. Oh wait, you traded that away for Jamal Adams. And the problem cap hit for your folks is this is the reason why, as much as we criticize the Patriots in the past, and this is important in this situation, knowing when to pay players and how to use the cap to your advantage here. You got Russell Wilson's big contract. What are you gonna do with Jamal Adams? He got drafted in 2017. Exactly. So he has 1 more year. Do you pick up his 5th-year option? Do you extend him for 4 to 5 years? You have no first-round picks to address the offensive line for the next 1, 2 to 3 plus years. You're right. Chris Carson. What do you do with Sharp Penny? He's an NFL bust. DK Metcalf in a year or two. How are you going to pay him? Greg Olsen retires. There's so many different issues here, folks. Ismail, Dak technically is a free agent, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But in my opinion, they're going to franchise tag Dak, but we'll get more to deep that at a later time. But again, it's going to be a situation where you have no first-round picks this year or next year to address the offensive line. So at that point, there's no way for the Seattle Seahawks to address the offensive line. I blame the GM and I blame the ownership. I think Russell Wilson's a phenomenal quarterback. But I don't care how great you are. You can look at the Super Bowl this year. Even though I'm glad the Chiefs lost, I'm a Broncos fan. Sorry, Darren Smith here, but with that, no matter how great your quarterback is, the offensive line is number one. Ask Dak Prescott his rookie year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Just look at my Niners if you need to know how important an offensive line is. I mean, we probably had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, maybe in modern history. I mean, those guys look like they didn't even belong in the NFL. They look like they should have been working for McDonald's. So, yes, John, offensive lines do matter in the NFL. Matters big time.
I think Grant Cohn can agree to that one. But, ladies and gentlemen, this topic, I got to talk about it. But I'll let Isaiah give his thoughts first. But Isaiah Leon, my question to you: the Broncos are receiving heavy trade requests and quarterback Drew Lock.
Yes.
Are the Broncos breaking a mistake and giving up on Lock after just 21 career starts?
Well, when I look at this, you guys know how much I like Drew Lock. I think it's been
MVP in 2020. Thank you.
Yes, I picked him to win MVP in 2020. I said he was going to throw for over 4,000 plus yards, and the Broncos were going to win
50 plus TDs also.
Yes, 40 plus TDs, and also the Broncos were going to win the AFC West. So it's been well documented on this network how much I like Drew Lock. And I've also said in the past that, Drew Lock, he's not a franchise quarterback. But, after watching a lot of tape on him the last week, John, I think you might want to get ready to walk off the set, because what I'm about to say might actually get you to storm off the set. I might have to do a solo program the rest of the way. But I believe that Drew Lock has the ability to become a franchise quarterback, but he...
What? Oh my God, you had it!
What?
Yes, I believe that Drew Lock has the ability to one day
Get some help.
I believe that Drew Lock has the ability to one day be a franchise quarterback, but he is very raw. Drew Lock, he's got a cannon of an arm, but like I said, he needs work when it comes to, going through his reads and his progressions, and also not panicking when the pocket collapses. I think John will agree with me on that, because he's watched a lot of Broncos games, especially in the Drew Lock tenure. Drew Lock, when the pocket collapses, he always panics, and he just makes wild throws, or, tries to, be the hero and force balls to receivers that are not there, and it always gets picked. So that's the problem with Drew Lock. Drew Lock has the talent, but he's very raw, and he needs to sit on the bench and learn and develop under a offensive-minded, great quarterback whisperer type of a coach. And, as far as the question if Denver should trade him or not, I believe Denver should trade him, but it's only because I think that both sides would benefit well from a change of scenery. I think that Drew Lock would benefit greatly from a change of scenery. I really do not like the offensive system right now in Denver. Denver, they hired Pat Shurmur, who runs a really, really bland offensive scheme, and he really doesn't work well with young quarterbacks. Pat Shurmur is better with veteran quarterbacks than young quarterbacks. You look at what he did with Daniel Jones. I was not impressed with what Pat Shurmur did with Daniel Jones. That's why when Denver fired Rich Scangarello, their previous offensive coordinator, I was scratching my head. I was like, why would you do that? I get that the offense wasn't good with Joe Flacco, but you look at what Rich Scangarello did with Drew Lock. I mean, he made Drew Lock actually look good in the 5 games that Drew Lock played under Rich Scangarello. You fire Rich Scangarello and you bring in Pat Shurmur, who runs a really bland offense and is not good with young quarterbacks. And Drew Lock, he tanked last season. So I believe that Drew Lock's got the talent, but I think he would be much better with a good offensive coach, not named Pat Shurmur, coaching him. So that's why I think that, some of the places that Drew Lock should go, that I think that he would have great, or that would make a lot of sense for Drew Lock, is number one, I believe New Orleans. I think New Orleans would be a good fit for Drew Lock. And the reason being is that, like John said, Drew Brees retired. New Orleans, they need a future franchise quarterback. I'm not saying you start Drew Lock right now because he's really raw. I'm saying you sit him on the bench for a couple of seasons, and then, you let him learn, and you let Sean Payton, who is one of the best offensive coaches in the game of football, he's one of the best quarterback whisperers in the game of football. You let Sean Payton develop him for 2 years. You bring in like a Ryan Fitzpatrick or a Jameis Winston, a bridge quarterback to fill in for 1 or 2 seasons. And then, after 2 seasons, then you could put Drew Lock in. And I think he will be ready under the tutelage of Sean Payton. And another, destination is San Francisco. I really believe, John, this also might make you walk off the set. But I believe that if Drew Lock goes to the 49ers, I really believe that Drew Lock is going to have lots of success with the 49ers. And the reason being is because, like I said, Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL.
Get some help.
Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. He is a quarterback guru. This guy has worked with a ton of quarterbacks. He's made a lot of quarterbacks look good than they really are. I mean, look at Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub had his best seasons under Kyle Shanahan. And then RG3 had his best season under Kyle Shanahan. What did RG3 do after Kyle Shanahan? I get the fact that he had that injury, but he was never the same without Kyle Shanahan. Matt Ryan, same thing. Matt Ryan had his best season under Kyle Shanahan. So I do believe that Shanahan could make Drew Lock work. Lock is the type of quarterback that I think Shanahan is looking for. Pocket passer that has a strong arm that can throw the ball 40 yards down the field. I think that if you put Drew Lock with the 49ers, he could be the backup for a couple of seasons, learn and develop under Kyle Shanahan, and then you put him in. I think he would have success. And the last place that, this might also be crazy, but Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is another good place for Drew Lock. And the reason being, I know John is like looking at me like, what did I just say? But the reason why I'm saying Tampa Bay is a good fit is because Bruce Arians, who is another terrific offensive mastermind and quarterback guru, Bruce Arians, the offense that he runs is, no risk it, no biscuit, which means they take chances. They take shots down the field. And Bruce Arians, you can sit Drew Lock down for a couple of seasons, develop him, let Drew Lock learn under the greatest of all time, time. Let him learn under a budding offensive mind in Byron Leftwich, learn under Bruce Arians, and let those guys develop Drew Lock. And then after Brady retires, you can have Drew Lock step in, and Brady can hand the baton to Drew Lock, and I think Drew Lock would have success in Tampa Bay. So do I think that Denver should move on from Drew Lock? Yes, because I don't like Denver's offensive coaches, and I think that Denver should trade into a Tampa, a New Orleans, or a San Francisco, and those teams have him sit for 1 or 2 years and have him develop. And I think that would really be beneficial for his career.
First of all, Pat Shurmur and the coach, both of them should be fired. Vic Fangio is fired. He's a joke of a head coach. You go back to last season, now using your 2 to 3 timeouts, and at the end of the game, like, I probably should have used my timeouts. Folks, they should move on from Drew Lock. I'm done. And here's also the other thing too, folks, is that we don't have 3 to 4 to 5 years to wait for Drew Lock to develop. The Raiders potentially have their quarterback. The Chargers definitely have their quarterback. The Chiefs are doing their thing. They're winning the AFC West pretty much every single year for the past couple of years since Patrick Mahomes became the starter. And I believe 2018. But, folks, let's be honest here. Drew Lock is going to be gone. And I have an idea, and I told this. And, again, I was just filing my mind at work thinking of these football topics and football answers. I think Chicago, and hear me out, because if you bring Alex Smith, it's going to be dirt cheap. You bring Alex Smith in, you bring Drew Lock to compete the job with Sam Darnold, and you never know from there. Ryan Fitzpatrick will obviously stay with the Miami Dolphins. I mean, look, if you're really convinced of Tua, you don't let Ryan Fitzpatrick go. Those type of quarterbacks, those type of backup quarterbacks, those type of veteran quarterbacks, those type of veteran quarterback mentorships, they don't just fly off the trees. You got to keep them. I'm sorry, y'all. I think Drew Lock could be a good quarterback, but not with my Broncos. John Elway is a part of the problem, and here's where I think we should trade him, Sam. But here's the problem. Who are we going to get in the draft? You can't trust John Elway to draft a quarterback. The reason why I say this is because 2016, when Paxton Lynch got drafted, before I started watching football, like hardcore, I was talking to one of my friends, and we were like, I told her, yeah, we got Paxton Lynch. We got Paxton Lynch. Then we also have Brock Osweiler twice. Do you know how many different quarterbacks we've had start since 2016? Almost 16, I believe, give or take. That many different quarterbacks. John Elway's part of the problem. John Elway's not going to go. They're too emotionally invested. The problem is now.
John, don't forget that wide receiver that came off the practice squad and started at quarterback for you guys.
At least we don't have Jimmy Garoppolo's terrible contract, so I wouldn't be. Second, or third, or fourth here, folks, is that even if Drew Lock could develop, Patrick Mahomes is still going to do it. You can't outthrow, you can't outrun Patrick Mahomes, and Vic Fangio, Pat Shurmur deserve to be fired right now here on the MI6 Sports Network, because the fact is your offense is as boring and bland as vanilla ice cream. It sounds good, but in results, it does not work. And I'm baffled why the Denver Broncos are really even considering Drew Lock as a future quarterback. Look what Justin Herbert did in 2020. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Most likely Derek Carr is going to stay, and I don't blame him because they can get him for cheaper. We don't have time to wait. This isn't 2015. This isn't 2012. You don't pay May. He's not coming back out of retirement. He's not pulling a Brett Favre. He's done. Hall of Famer. I think Chicago, so he can compete with Sam Darnold for the starting job. As for other teams, man, it's one of those situations where I think he most likely will be a backup. Whether it's on him or not, again, I agree. Like, the problem is the mentality. You could have the greatest arm. I've seen him have some throws, some great moments. 2019, you were up like however many points against the Houston Texans. Sorry there, Chris, and all Texan fans out there. But most of these teams that we're talking about, you look at him, we're going to talk about right now, backup quarterback. He's just not. He doesn't have starter material. That's the mentality. Like we talk about Tom Brady. He doesn't always have the greatest arm, but he is the strongest mental quarterback in the NFL. The strongest mentality. That's what matters. Not having the greatest arm. Because you could have the greatest arm, but the offensive line's not working, the running game's not going. It does not work. Drew Lock, I wish you the best, my man. I don't wish you no harm, but most of these are backups. He's not a starter in the NFL. And you look at many teams that have quarterbacks and many teams that need a quarterback, they don't have the money, much less a long-term investment. I think the Saints are going to be doing a basic, what do you have? Do a Jameis Winston type thing like you did with Teddy Bridgewater. Give him a one-year deal, kind of like what Teddy Bridgewater did in 2018. Let's see what he can do. If it doesn't work, you can move on. The problem is that they don't have the money the next couple of years for if Drew Luck does work out. With James Gonzalez, if Luck is gone, they should draft Kyle Trask from Florida. That would be interesting. But again, knowing John Elway, he's going to pick the most terrible, boring, bland. Watch him pick Zach Wilson or somebody somehow. I don't know how. But John Elway does not know how to draft a quarterback. Pat Shurmur, y'all deserve to be fired right now. Your offense is as predictable, if not more predictable, than the 2020 Chicago Bears. I'm done with Drew Lock. He's going to be a backup in this league.
Pat Shurmur should have been fired this offseason. I don't even know why he has the job. I mean, the Broncos, their offense was already stale with Scangarello for the most part when they had Flacco, and also they were bad on offense with Scangarello when they had Flacco and Brandon Allen and those other guys that they started. But somehow, some way, they hired a coach in Shurmur who is more experienced than Scangarello, and Fangio thought that Shurmur, he's got a lot of experience as a head coach, offensive coordinator, calling plays and running like good offenses. He thought that Shurmur would be a much improved or an improvement over Scangarello, and somehow the Broncos, they were worse with Shurmur than they were with Scangarello. So Pat Shurmur should have been fired, a couple months ago. I do not know why he still has a job. Rich Scangarello should have never been fired to begin with because he worked really well with Drew Lock. It just boggles my mind why Denver went that route and why Pat Shurmur still has a job.
Next thing here, my man, we talk about again, Drew Lock. We just won this fun. All right. This next topic here, we're talking about some of the teams. Isaiah, they have the Cowboys, the Panthers, maybe the Cardinals. Again, sorry. I'm just not reading this again. I didn't prepare before. The NFL is reportedly considering 3 to 4 teams for Hard Knocks. One of them, please do not put on Hard Knocks. The Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos, please do not put them on Hard Knocks. I'm begging you. Please do not. Jacksonville Jaguars, Giants, the Panthers, and the Cardinals. Isaiah, after all these on this list, which one would you love to see be on Hard Knocks?
Well, when I look at this list, so like you mentioned, John, the 6 teams that the NFL is considering right now for Hard Knocks is Cowboys, Broncos, Jaguars, Giants, Panthers, and Cardinals. I think it most likely will be the Dallas Cowboys because they are the big brand name and everybody wants to know what's going on in that building with Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and all that drama surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. So I think it most likely will be Dallas. But in terms of the team that I want to see out of all these 6 teams, believe it or not, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the reason why is because I would be very interested to see how it might sound like a big surprise and something that just came out of left field with my answer, but the reason why I say Jacksonville is because I want to see how Urban Meyer, after spending his entire career coaching college football, how he does coming into the NFL and running an NFL franchise. I want to see that. I want to see how he does, like talking and coaching grown men, how he coaches Trevor Lawrence, how he does running an NFL organization. I just want to see that. That would really fascinate me. But, knowing the NFL, John, I believe that it's probably going to be the Cowboys, because out of all these teams that are, on this list, I just really think like none of them can beat the Cowboys in terms of entertainment and potentially getting fans to watch the show. I mean, the Broncos, I would like the Broncos because I'm a huge fan of Vic Fangio, dating back to his days with the 49ers. I stumped for him to get a head coaching job. So, I mean, the Broncos would interest me, but I definitely think like not a lot of people would tune in if the Denver Broncos made it to Hard Knocks, Jacksonville. I gave my reasons why, but again, I don't know if a lot of people would tune in as well compared to the Dallas Cowboys. Giants doesn't really interest me. Panthers, I like Matt Rule, but still doesn't really interest me. Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, I could see why the NFL would like to do that. But I still think out of all these teams, the Cowboys just provide the most entertainment and give the NFL a big platform for Hard Knocks and get fans to watch.
I'm going to say not the Cowboys because the last thing they want is bad PR. So they're not going to put Jerry Jones on Hard Knocks. He's not going to appear one single second if I'm the Dallas Cowboys because, bad PR, they're about entertainment, making the money, selling tickets, getting fans to the games. I don't think the Cowboys, but mine would have to be the Cardinals. We already saw DeAndre Hopkins in 2014 with the hilarious Vince Wilfork moment coming in with the little farm overalls on Hard Knocks. The reason why I picked the Arizona Cardinals is just because I want to see who is the leader of that team. Is it Kyler Murray or is it DeAndre Hopkins? And the reason why I picked the Cardinals because I'm high on Kyler Murray, not at college, OU, boo OU. The fact of the matter is here is I would love to see in a locker room after the year they had last year, after the catch he made last year against the Buffalo Bills. I really want to see who, I know I'm repeating myself, but who is the leader here, folks? Is it DeAndre Hopkins? Great guy. So Kyler Murray, great guy. But my also question is here. Cliff Kingsbury is a bad NFL head coach. I would love to see, do they keep Cliff Kingsbury? Again, I go back to Dallas just because, again, they're about good PR in terms of entertainment. They're not going to put Jerry Jones on Hard Knocks because, there are probably some things behind the scenes they don't want fans to know. That, to me, is a scary thing. The New York Giants, again, would be interesting to see Jason Garrett and the head coach on Hard Knocks. But again, who knows? The reason why I don't pick the Jaguars is just Urban Meyer and his health. Like, I know that's a huge issue. When you look at 2018 with the Cleveland Browns, they were a potential up-and-coming team at that time. You had Corey Coleman, who had a meltdown with Hugh Jackson literally on camera. Look at the clip on YouTube. You see guys having issues. You see the guy say Hut. I mean, there's so many different types of issues. You saw Jarvis Landry calling out every single receiver because they're not putting in the work. They're slouching. They're slacking off. They're not doing their job. The Cardinals, in my genuine opinion, before we move on to our NBA segment, is I picked the Cardinals because I love what they're doing, but I really want to see who is a true leader of the Arizona Cardinals. But last one, definitely not the Denver Broncos, because John Elway is going to put on a PR face. Hi, how's it going? I'm John Elway. Even though he is a part of the problem, just because it's Hard Knocks and it's entertainment, they're not, again, entertainment, not getting to the facts. They're not going to show the issues they have behind the scenes. I picked the Arizona Cardinals, but I would love to see the Cowboys and Jerry Jones throw a tantrum on Hard Knocks. Isaiah, you're on mute.
Yeah, I get your point, but I don't know, man. I mean, Cowboys, like, if I have to say, which team is favored right now, I would definitely go with the Cowboys because they're the Cowboys and they provide a lot of entertainment. But I just don't see any of these teams really drawing any interest to fans out there besides the Cowboys. I mean, like I'm throwing this out to our audience right now. If you comment down below, out of these 6 teams, we've got the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Jaguars, the Giants, Panthers, and the Cardinals. Which team would you want to see on Hard Knocks next season? We really want to hear what you guys have to say. But I just think, out of all these 6 teams, for me, when I look at it, it's easy. It's the Cowboys that would just draw like lots of interest from me compared to the other teams. But I would say probably second place would be Arizona in terms of interest for the fans.
Without a doubt, my man. I love seeing Hard Knocks every single just to see the type of entertainment and who loves, and I love seeing the meltdowns, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. But Isaiah, going to the NBA, Sacramento Kings fell again last night to the New York Knicks. I know, the New York Knicks losing their 9th consecutive game, falling to 12-20 on the season. But the huge question here, though, is your guy, should the Sacramento Kings fire your guy, Luke Walton?
John, Luke Walton absolutely needs to go. I know, shocker, right? You guys probably all thought that I was going to say Luke Walton needs to be signed to a contract extension. No, Luke Walton absolutely needs to go. Luke Walton should have been fired last night after that horrific loss that the Kings suffered at the hands of the New York Knicks. Seriously, we were talking about losing to the freaking New York Knicks, who have been the laughingstock in all of sports for at least like the last 5 to 7 seasons. And you know what is worse about you losing to the New York Knicks? You didn't lose by 1 point. You didn't lose by 2 points. You didn't lose by 5 points. No, you lost by 20 points to the freaking New York Knicks. We're talking about a team that is worse right now, or one of the worst teams in the NBA in terms of offensive production. You guys all know that I have been a die-hard supporter of Luke Walton ever since his days with the Golden State Warriors.
You said him over LeBron James 2 years
Yes,
ago.
I have been a die-hard supporter of Luke Walton dating back to his days as an assistant with the Warriors. And, I desperately wanted him to get the job with the Lakers when Byron Scott was fired. And like John mentioned, I was a huge supporter of him when he was the Lakers head coach. I even said that couple of years back, that I would take Luke Walton over LeBron James if the Lakers had to choose between those two. That's how strong of a supporter I was in Luke Walton. But as much as I like Luke Walton as a person, Luke Walton is a fantastic human being. But ladies and gentlemen, when you're in sports, when you cover sports, or when you cover sports, or when you talk sports, you got to admit your faults. And I'm going to come on here right now and admit my faults.
No, whoa. I need to record this. So let me take my AirPods out.
Yes, I'll give you a second, John. I'll give you a second. Go ahead.
Just 1 second. Hey, Isaiah, get ready.
Give me when to go. Give me a thumbs up or something like that.
You're about to what?
I am about to come on here right now and admit when I was wrong. Luke Walton absolutely needs to be fired. I was wrong about Luke Walton. Luke Walton is a terrible head coach. He is not good at all. This man right here rode the coattails of the Golden State Warriors to head coaching jobs that he should have not gotten. I mean, this guy is a true product of the Warriors' success. If it wasn't him that made Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and all those guys on that Warriors team when Luke Walton was coaching them, that started 24-0 and en route to a 37-4 start to that season. No, it was them that made Luke Walton who he is and get that record. It was them that got Luke Walton the jobs with the Lakers and got Luke Walton the jobs with the Sacramento Kings. Ever since Luke Walton left the Bay Area, that man has been exposed as a total fraud and a terrible head coach. You look at the Los Angeles Lakers when Luke Walton was the Lakers head coach. The guy never had a winning season with the Los Angeles Lakers, and all the young core players that was with the Lakers at that time that Luke Walton took over. Luke Walton was supposed to be this great developer of young talent. That's why the Lakers hired him in the first place, to be their next head coach, because he was supposed to come in and develop Jordan Clarkson and D'Angelo Russell and Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball and make them great basketball players. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? All those players that I just named, they all were better without Luke Walton than they were with Luke Walton. D'Angelo Russell, you look at him. He became an all-star with the Brooklyn Nets 1 year after leaving Luke Walton. And then Jordan Clarkson, who is a very strong candidate right now for Sixth Man of the Year. He is balling out with the Utah Jazz, and he's doing this without Luke Walton. And then you look at Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram has emerged as an all-star without Luke Walton. And then you look at Julius Randle, who is absolutely balling out with the New York Knicks right now, scored 44 points the other night, and he just earned an all-star appearance. And it was after the Lakers gave up on him because they thought that he was trash, because he was trash, but that was under, you guessed it, Luke Walton. You look at all those 5 players that I named. There is one consistent domino when it comes to these players. Luke Walton. They were held back by Luke Walton. Luke Walton is a garbage coach. The Sacramento Kings, if you look at them right now, they should not only be in the thick of the playoff race with that talented roster that they have, who they almost made the playoffs under Dave Yeager. When they fired Dave Yeager, made a very foolish decision, and then hired Luke Walton to be their head coach. They have completely backtracked ever since then. You know, you talk about this team with De'Aaron Fox and Bagley and those guys. They are a talented young team that I believe should be competing for, you know, maybe a 6th or 7th or 8th spot, or even a 5th spot at best in the Western Conference. That's how talented the Sacramento Kings are. But right now, they're poorly utilized by Luke Walton. And also, you know, the thing that right now, what is really hurting the Sacramento Kings and why they are in a 9-game losing streak is because of their defense. I mean, look at these stats, ladies and gentlemen. I have it right now in front of me. The Sacramento Kings, and John, I think you want to listen to this very clearly. The Sacramento Kings, in this 9-game losing streak, they've given up 119 points, 123 points, 124 points, 136 points, 118 points, 122 points, 128 points, 127 points, and last night, 140 points. I have the stats right here. That is how many points the Sacramento Kings have given up in this 9-game losing streak that they currently are. John, I know John is not a big follower of basketball. He's not that big of a basketball fan, but even John knows you cannot be giving up this many points if you want to win basketball games, at least even get to the playoffs. That's how pathetic the defense is with the Sacramento Kings. Dave Yeager at least made the Sacramento Kings competent on defense. Luke Walton has been a complete disaster with the Kings. The Kings players have tuned him out. The Kings suck on defense. Their offense, is a total mess as well. The Sacramento Kings, they need to rip off the Band-Aid right now and just start fresh like the Minnesota Timberwolves did on Sunday when they fired head coach Ryan Saunders. Just do it, Sacramento. Rip off the Band-Aid because your season is dead. You're not going to go to the playoffs. Just start fresh and you can get a leg up on the coaching search. Fire Luke Walton now. Luke Walton needs to be fired this instance.
Colin, if you're ever watching this, he did admit that he admitted one of his faults, that he was wrong. If you give that many points after the first game, you're fired. Because in the West, remember, ladies and gentlemen, AD is coming back in the playoffs. You got the Heat in the East. You got so many teams in the West that are trying to hardly compete in a shortened 72-game season about to have the All-Star break. Luke Walton, I give you a ton of blame. Lack of discipline, not listening. And Jason Zolls makes a good point. He says the players are not listening to Luke. Now, do I completely fault that on him? No. But at the same time, if the players are not buying what the coach is selling, if the students are not buying what the teacher is teaching, then at that point, who do you put that fault on? Because if I'm gonna come in here and say a bunch of football takes, and they're just a bunch of gibberish, you're not gonna take me seriously. You're not gonna take it into value. You're not gonna listen. Nobody's gonna come on the show. That's exactly what's happened with the Kings. Luke Walton at this point should have been fired 3 to 4 games ago. It doesn't take anybody that watch. Let's say nobody else has watched an NBA game ever. If you want to compare whose defense was worse, the Kings' defense was worse than the Dallas Cowboys in 2020. That's exactly what has happened. And of course, in my six is if you fired in high school at the ball, exactly. You wouldn't put that up in high school or college. Why are you putting it up in the NFL? It's just like if I could think of an NFL head coach that continuously got a chance time and time again, but did not deserve it. I can't remember his name here on the top of my head. There's many NFL coaches on the top of my head that got a chance again and again and again. And folks, it's not a reason that people are thinking of why he still has a job. A name of franchise carries a lot more weight than people realize. Because let's say, for example, if I worked at Apple, like, oh my gosh, this guy worked at Apple. Oh my gosh, look what this guy's doing. But I only clean the floors. I only try to do computer stuff, and I messed up every single time. But all you see is Apple. All you see is the Golden State Warriors here. All you see is what you were trying to do in LA, but you made these guys look like busted. Now, Jordan Clarkson, you're on the Knicks, and you have an all-star, bro. The Knicks are in the playoff race. Jason Gonzalez makes a wonderful point. I believe I could find it here. He should be fired. He should never get another head coaching job again. And if he does, any team deserves to lose. Isaiah, I think you had one more point.
Yes, I just want to show the mood right now in Sacramento.
Shooting. Burks on a heat check. Got it. And the lead has swollen. It has ballooned to 20. Timeout. And we'll come back right after this.
I don't know if you guys could see that really clearly, but Luke Walton actually karate chopped and broke his clipboard last night in the Kings loss to the New York Knicks. Let's show it again for the fan.
Burks on a heat check. Got it. And the lead has swollen. It has ballooned to 20. Timeout. And we'll come back right after this.
Yep, the mood in Sacramento is not good, ladies and gentlemen.
This is just like working in a daycare. You throw a tantrum when it doesn't go your way. Like that, to me, just shows his lack of leadership. I understand you're beyond frustrated. I understand you're not just thinking about this game. You're thinking about your coaching career for the rest of your life. I get that. But it just shows in a tough moment, you can't rely on Luke Walton to be the leader. And if you can't count your head coach to lead this team, you think they're going to buy what you're selling? It's like you're trying to. You say if I bought you like an iPhone 4, a counterfeit iPhone 4. Look, I got this iPhone 5. No, it's a counterfeit. It's like Luke Walton's a counterfeit head coach in the NBA. You throw a tantrum like that, you have the relationship, you're done, buddy. You shouldn't be a head coach in the NBA ever again.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, John. That's why Luke Walton deserves to be fired now. And the Kings, I don't even know why he still has a job. I mean, I don't know why the Kings didn't do it last night. They should do it now. The Kings, they're just not going anywhere. And until I think of it like this, we always talk about the New York Knicks being, this laughing stock in sports, which they are. But the New York Knicks seem like they have found the right man. They have found a guy in Tom Thibodeau who's given them stability, who's installed a culture in New York. And he's a guy that's preaching defense. And I think that's what the Kings need. They need a guy that forget a guy that is like one of the best offensive tacticians in the game, or a guy that is, looked at as one of the brightest young coaches in the game. You don't need that. You need a guy that can come in and change the culture in that organization and install a defensive mentality. Because those Kings players, they can score the basketball. I mean, it's like everybody knows that. De'Aaron Fox, Bagley, those guys, they can score the basketball. But it's about defense in the NBA. The Lakers proved that last year. Lakers, they weren't the best offensive team in the league. But why did they win a championship? Because they had one of the best defenses in the NBA. Defense wins championships in whatever sport that you're either playing or coaching.
Without a doubt, my man. But y'all, I would love to hear y'all opinion on this. If you had to compare Luke Walton's temper tantrum to anything else in life, I would love to hear it. Isaiah, I'll let you kind of do the baseball segment here. But the Phillies star Bryce Harper says that the NL East is the best division in baseball. Do you agree, or do you completely way off disagree?
I agree with what Bryce Harper says. I really do believe that the NL East right now is the best division in baseball, because when you look at from 1 through 5, you got the Phillies, the Marlins, the Braves, the Mets, the Nationals. Any of these teams, they're all going to be competing for the division title. They're going to be competing for the 2 wild card spots in the National League. And there's going to be at least 3 of those teams miss the playoffs. And you would just look back and say, that those 3 teams, they should have gotten in because they were good. I mean, look at the Braves. The Braves have owned this division for the last 3-4 years. They're a very young team. They're at the top of this division. And then you look at the New York Mets, the New York Mets weren't that good last year, but they made a lot of splash additions with the addition of Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco in the offseason. The Mets are going to be good. They even signed Trevor May to bolster their bullpen. They're going to be good. You look at the Phillies. I know everybody likes to mock the Phillies because of me and mock the Phillies because they signed Bryce Harper.
No, it wasn't Bryce Harper that you kept saying they're back and they're not back. You're inconsistent like another team in a certain NFL league. Callan, you know what I'm talking about.
But the Phillies, they've got Bryce Harper, they got Real Muto, they've got Segura, they've got McCutchen, they've got Alec Bohm, whom I am really high on. They've got a great offense. Their pitching staff, they've got their ace in Aaron Nola, they've got the number 2 in Zach Wheeler. They have a pretty decent rotation. It's about that bullpen, and the Phillies have done a lot to get that bullpen fixed. Adding guys like Archie Bradley, they added Brandon Kinsler, they added Tony Watson, they added Sam Coonrod, Jose Alvarado, who I think was a good addition for that bullpen. I think the bullpen will be much better. I think the Phillies will be in that race. And then you have the Marlins. The Marlins last season was the surprise team in baseball. They had that nasty COVID outbreak at the start of the season, and everybody was like, oh, no, man, baseball was going to be canceled. And what did the Marlins do? They had so many players out with COVID. They go out on the street, sign a bunch of players, and those players end up becoming difference makers. And the Marlins somehow, some way make the playoffs in the National League last season. I think the Marlins are going to be in it. And don't forget the Nationals. I mean, they have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. Max Scherzer, you've got Patrick Corbin, you've got Steven Strasburg as well. And the Nationals, they won the World Series just 2 years ago. So I think this division is definitely the best division in all of baseball. It is loaded from top to bottom, and I can't wait to see the battle that ensues this season between the Phillies, the Braves, the Marlins, the Mets, and the Nationals.
Yep. Again, I don't watch baseball, but peace, I agree. No, I was kidding. Next one here. I would love to see your reaction to, again, I apologize, some names I can't pronounce well, so just be patient with me, y'all. It is, yeah, you got to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. I don't want to say the wrong. I don't want to say the
Shohei
right
Ohtani.
what
Shohei
you said
Ohtani.
because if I say certain words like that, it sounds like I'm saying something else. What is your reaction to him hitting a 97-mile-per-hour fastball in batting practice?
I'm absolutely thrilled for him. And the reason being is because Shohei Ohtani was an absolute beast in Japan, whether it was pitching or batting. I mean, he was the first two-way player in a long time to come to Major League Baseball. John, like, I know you don't watch a lot of baseball, but normally when you play MLB or even like whatever, like league of baseball that you play in, you don't typically see a guy that is good in both pitching and hitting. So what Ohtani did was very, very rare. He came in throwing 96 to 100 on his fastball, had nasty movement on his off-speed stuff, and then unfortunately he tore a ligament in his elbow. And normally when you tear a ligament in your elbow, for pitchers, that is never good because you go through the Tommy John surgery and then you're never the same that you once were. So Ohtani came back last year, a year removed from Tommy John surgery, and the guy went from throwing 97 to 100 to throwing 88 to 92 on his fastball. And that's never good when you have that dip in velocity, that type of loss when it comes to velocity on your fastball. That's never good. That's why like teams like the A's and other teams just hit Ohtani around because, compared like to the hard stuff that you were throwing earlier, and now you're throwing like really soft stuff. It's like batting practice. So I'm thrilled that Ohtani is now reaching like 96 to 97, 98 on his fastball, like going back to what he was before the elbow surgery. I think that, the Angels, they should definitely keep a close eye on him because, we don't know how he's going to be back from that Tommy John surgery, but it's a good sign. It's a really, really good sign that he's back to hitting 97 and 98 on the fastball compared to what he was throwing last season when he was just throwing like, really soft 88 to 89 and 90 on his fastball, which was very concerning at that time. And everybody thought that, his pitching career was in jeopardy.
Without a doubt, my man. Again, Callan just has a lot of baseball knowledge. Again, I'm not gonna pretend like I know anything about baseball, but finally going back to a topic that I actually do love about pigskin pick'ems back this week, ladies and gentlemen. Another football league is coming to play in the spring. Isaiah Leon, you have Weber State versus Idaho State. Who do you pick to win this game?
Wow, this is tough because I don't really follow the FCS closely, and I hope Callan is not watching so that he doesn't see me change my pick. But
Callan, watch it. Watch it right now. Callan, I'm watching you, watching him.
When I look at this game, right? When I look at this game, it's tough because both of these two teams have never played a game this season yet. This is their first game this season. And so you have to go back on what they did last year to really judge and pick who will win the game. And I'm going to go with Weber State because Idaho State right now is rebuilding. Weber State last season was one of the best teams, or they were the best team in the Big Sky Conference compared to Idaho State, who wasn't really that good. So Weber State is 31-4 against FCS teams in the past 3 seasons. They are just a monster right now. Like if I'm looking at this scouting report, people are comparing Weber State to Alabama and Clemson compared to the other teams in the FCS. So I got to go with Weber State. like Idaho State is rebuilding. I don't think Idaho State really has as much talent as Idaho State. So, I mean, as Weber State. So I'm going to go with the Wildcats of Weber State, who I am familiar with because as you guys all know, I lived in Hawaii, went to a lot of Hawaii Rainbow Warrior football games back in my heyday. And one of the games that I did go to was Hawaii versus Weber State, and Hawaii squeaked out a narrow win against Weber State. So I'm going to go with Weber State and the Wildcats to pull it off over the Idaho State Bengals.
The reason why I pick Idaho is because I think of potatoes and I like French fries. I don't know anything about either team, so I have no other comment. I think of French fries, I think of potatoes, and I think bacon, and I think of a cheeseburger and fries. I'm being honest with you. I don't follow that league so much, so we're just here to be honest and truly honest with y'all. But I would love to hear y'all's opinion. Do y'all really watch any of these teams, or should we? Again, it's more and more football. Again, Idaho, potatoes, fries, and a bacon cheeseburger.
John, with how unfamiliar we are, me, you, Trevor Furman, with the FCS, I think this year we might end up picking games based on which mascot looks better, or based on the team's colors, or based on what city or state that team is located in. I think
for me, it's gonna be if it sounds like food, I'll pick that team. Just because I don't follow it. I am gonna follow it more so I can learn about all different types of
one thing before. One thing before we move on to our Power 5, which I promise the viewers is very interesting, and you're going to have to dig back to your junior high school and high school days to, go to this Power 5. But let me say this. Put that camera on me, John. I need that full camera on me. I need a bet real quick before we move on. The New Mexico State Aggies.
No.
I'm trying to find that hat. I don't know where that hat is, but I am very disgusted with the Aggies. You are an FBS team, and you're playing FCS squads this year. You're supposed to dominate these teams. And what do you go out in your first game?
Loses again.
The New Mexico State Aggies in their first game at home against Tarleton State. Tarleton State squad that got, that allowed 43 points to their opponent the week before. The Aggies, they lost 43-10. How do you lose? How does that happen? How do you lose 43-10 to a team that wasn't even supposed to play you this season? I mean, you were you were supposed to play teams like Utah State, Fresno State, Alabama. Even Clemson was supposed to play you. How could you go from those teams to losing 43-10 to freaking Tarleton State? It's really disgraceful. And New Mexico State, Doug Martin, I like Doug Martin. He led the Aggies to their first bowl game since 1970. But I have a message for the Aggies administration. Hire me. Let me be the head coach of your team. I have always wanted to coach New Mexico State.
No. You said Josh Rosen was a savior. Stop it.
One day, have my statue built at Aggie Memorial Stadium. I mean, I could do no worse. Please, hire me as your head coach.
Isaiah, you're the same guy that proposed to a teddy bear. But what I'm going to have to pick, again, Idaho, cheeseburger, French fries, and tater tots. But ladies and gentlemen, the Power 5 for tonight. Isaiah, what is your Power 5 for tonight?
Hold on, I'm trying to find that intro real quick.
Персональный спутник.
All right, our Power 5 for tonight is going to be top 5 favorite events in American history. I told you guys that you guys would have to, go back to your junior high school and high school days when y'all were taking American history classes to, get this Power 5. But it doesn't have to be, American history like, the Revolutionary War or the Boston Tea Party or anything like that. You could if you want. But, it could be like, the day McDonald's opened or the day the Phillies won the World Series in 2008. It could be something like that, or when Team USA pulled off a comeback in the 1984 Olympics. It could be something like that. But ladies and gentlemen, before I get into my Power 5, I actually want to read Trevor's Power 5. Unfortunately, Trevor couldn't be with us tonight because he had some stuff that came up on the air or some stuff that came up in school today, so he couldn't be with us for today. But Trevor's Power 5 is number 5, the ringing of the Liberty Bell. Number 4, the first time the United States hosted the Olympics, St. Louis in 1904. Number 3 was the Miracle on Ice. I think something that Callan is familiar with. Number 2, signing of the Declaration of Independence. And number 1, the first time America landed on moon. And Callan, you should jump in and join us for this, because I know that you are a history nut as well as I am. So, this might be in your alley. But here's my Power 5, ladies and gentlemen. I got a lot of This was like really broad, so it was very difficult, but I have narrowed it down to 6. All right, so I've got to give an honorable mention before I go into my Power 5. My honorable mention is going to be the day McDonald's opened. I mean, I don't think I could live without McDonald's. I mean, the day that McDonald's opened will be forever enshrined into one of the greatest days in American history. Because, man, imagine with no McDonald's, no coffee.
There's something called Starbucks that would have come later on in many individual coffee shops.
But, all right, number 5 on my list is going to be the Boston Tea Party. That was one of my favorite events, Revolutionary War events. And I love that event when I was, studying American history back in high school. I love the Boston Tea Party. It's just a funny event, with the colonists. They dress up in the costume and then they jump into a British ship and throw tea off the boat. I actually went to Boston a couple of years back, and I went to that Boston Tea Party ship that they have, the museum, and I experienced what it was like to go on the ship, dress up in costumes, and throw tea off the ship. It was fake tea, but still, it was still a very interesting experience. That's number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list will be the day Hawaii was annexed to the United States and became a state. That's my hometown. I love Hawaii so much, with the great beaches, the palm trees, coconut trees, you name it. It's just paradise. And the day Hawaii became a state of the U.S. Is just even though I wasn't born for it, but imagine Hawaii not being in the U.S. I just can't imagine that. So that's number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list is going to be, I'm trying to pull it up right now. It's going to be the Kim Jong-un Donald Trump handshake in Singapore. And the reason why I say that is because, listen, I don't agree with any of those two leaders, but still, that was a very significant moment in American history. You talk about North Korea being one of our biggest threats to our country, and not even 3-4 months before that meeting ended up happening, that those two leaders were going at it. We thought we were going to go to war with North Korea. And then 3 months later, you have Kim Jong-un being nice to the U.S. and you have, everything just changed miraculously. And for those two leaders to come together and shake hands, that was 70 plus years in waiting, ladies and gentlemen. That's how significant that handshake was. Number 2 on my list will be the day Barack Obama got elected the 44th president of the United States. I'm not talking about policies. I'm just talking about the day that he got elected. It's because not only did he, break the glass ceiling and become the first African-American president in American history. But as a little boy living in Hawaii, I think I was 10 years old at that time. I rooted hard for Barack Obama because as a kid, I think John can also attest to this. As a kid, you don't really care about, policies when trying to choose president. I rooted for Obama because he was from my home state. He was from my hometown of Honolulu, Hawaii. And I just thought, hey, it would be so cool if, we could have a president from Hawaii be the commander-in-chief of our country. And just to see that just blew my mind away as a little kid. That's number 2 on my list. And number 1 on my list, this is sports related, by the way. It is, John, you should get on camera for this. And Callan, if you're watching, you would definitely, you should definitely watch this. It's the day the Phillies won the World Series in 2008. That's my favorite event in American history, and I'll say why. It's because I had only followed baseball starting in the postseason of that year, 2008. The Phillies had a guy, Shane Victorino, the flying Hawaiian, who was from my hometown. That's where we always had Phillies games on, and for the Phillies to win the World Series that year, it was truly amazing. Another honorable mention I do have is when Michael Phelps won all those medals at the Beijing Olympics. That was historic. I was in Hong Kong actually when he did that, and it was just amazing to watch. So that is my Power 5 for this week.
Well, oh my gosh, that's it. The first one I'm gonna have to say is the day that football was invented and announced. Because football, and just like in any other sport, is bigger than just the game on the field. If it wasn't for football being invented, I wouldn't have watched the 2006 Rose Bowl. I wouldn't be here right now at almost 1 o'clock on a Friday night after just barely getting home from work in time to come into the show. Football has meant a lot to me. I've met a lot of people. I played very short time. I wish I played in high school, but just a short time that we played is the brotherhood, the camaraderie, something you're not going to see in school, something you're not going to see in any type of job. That's the only thing. I believe the strongest camaraderie is going to be in the game of football. The next one here, I'm not going to say McDonald's because, again, there's much better fast food places here. One thing I'm going to have to say is no, it's not the day that Nick Mullins was born. It's the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2016. Again, I wasn't a fan of the Broncos when they signed Peyton Manning. It was the year before Tim Tebow got drafted. Followed Tim Tebow in college, started finding college football a lot more. Got drafted by the Broncos, and I continued to follow my Denver Broncos. When you get to see your team in your lifetime where you can remember winning an actual Super Bowl, it's just something like no other. Obviously, like we say, I know that it wasn't because of Peyton Manning. I get that, blah, 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 blah. But seeing your team win a Super Bowl and getting to witness that and getting to trash talk, friendly, of course, we're not like we don't cuss, but friendly trash, cartoon trash talking is a lot of fun. Number 3, I'm going to have to say right here in America, maybe this doesn't count as American history, who knows? But I think this one here is Paul. Oh yeah, it is obviously Paul Revere's ride. Obviously, a lot of these, if they didn't happen the way they did, if Paul Revere wasn't there, if he basically tripped over his horse or something would have happened, who knows what would have happened in American history? I know you talk about going back to your textbooks in high school, Isaiah. I'll be honest with you, with your life, I barely paid attention in high school. So I don't remember much of what I learned, but I will be honest about that. Number 4, I'm going to have to say, if you talk about just American history or anything that's happened in America, I'm going to have to say, I know it's maybe repetitive, but the 2006 Rose Bowl. And I say this for a couple of reasons, because back then, mobile quarterbacks. And I know, but to me, football means a lot because it is meant for friendships to have had. Because if it wasn't for watching football, if it wasn't for that game of football, I wouldn't be here right now. I would have met Brian Friendly. Is such a great dude. I know it says "Oh, American history" over talks about it, but to me, it really matters because it's important. It's not about making the flashiest plays or players making the most money. It's the brotherhood and the lessons that I've learned in my lifetime is without a doubt more important than anything else. But this last one here, I know we're going back to football, but I'm just so passionate about it. It's the first ever Super Bowl, and what I loved, even though all the commercials this year in the Super Bowl were boring, is going to have to be Vince Lombardi. I loved how they did that little cameo thing in the Super Bowl commercials. I loved it. And again, if you're a true football fan, it got maybe a little too emotional, but it's seeing when the Super Bowl was first invented back then. I believe it was 11 to 12 games. There wasn't like the championship game, the division round. There's no wild card, none of that. And you beat, guess what? The Kansas City Chiefs. Ooh, I love saying that. Beating the Kansas. You can't say anything because your team's a 49ers shit. My team's the Broncos, so don't even go there. But that just shows the legacy of how moving forward, how games are played, how organizations are met, and how the league should operate. And it means a lot to me. Football has meant a lot to me for a very long time, and all of the friendships that have been made.
Yeah, John, excellent Power Five, man. I'm actually glad that, or I'm happy that you included, Paul Revere's ride. That was actually a really notable event in American history. But going into, some of our comments that trickled in, we have a lot of comments actually. Callan about Shohei Ohtani says, I'm surprised, but I hope that he does not hurt himself again. If he does, it's a disaster for the team who remains very thin with pitching. Totally agree with you, Callan. Shohei Ohtani is a guy that you really want to root for. He's very humble on the field and off the field as well. He's got a great work ethic, and you just want to see a guy like that succeed in the U.S., especially coming from a different country. Going into some of the Power Fives that trickled in, let's see. Christy Wilson says number 5 for her is the Revolutionary War. Number 4 is the Apollo 11 moon landing. Good one. Let's see. Number 3 for Christy, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Number 2 for Christy was the 1980 Miracle on Ice. That's another good one. And the number 1 is Michael Phelps winning 8 gold medals at the Beijing Olympics. For Callum McClurg, number 1 for him, the Miracle on Ice, 1980 Winter Olympics. That's a very popular choice. Trevor, Christie, they put that on their list today. Number 2, USA lands on the moon in 1969. Number 3, California becomes a state in 1850. Number 4, Jackie Robinson breaks MLB's color barrier. That is another very notable event in American history. And they have a great movie about it too. If you guys have not watched the movie 42, really think you guys should go check that out. It was a great movie. Number 5, Willie O'Ree breaks the NHL color barrier. Also, Christy says, honorable mention, the Cubs winning their first World Series title since 1908. Yeah, that's another great one because the Cubs had like 100+ year drought, and I know the fans were just dying for a World Series title when they finally got one. And also Callan says, sorry, John, but I don't know that feeling about seeing your favorite team win a championship. But yet when your team does build a contender for a title, some people decide to crap upon it.
Thank you.
We get that feeling, yep. And
no, you don't. No, you don't. You do not get that feeling. You're not a Broncos fan. You overhype, hypothetical, over dramatic bandwagon football fan.
And then Callan says, Isaiah, you picked Denver to win the AFC West. You don't get to celebrate anything.
He's right.
But, it's been a great program. John, I'm so thankful that you were able to join me on tonight's show, man, and fill in for Trevor and Furman. But it's time to go into tonight's final thoughts. Well, John, it was one heck of a show, man. We started a little bit late, but still, it was a fantastic show. I want to thank all the the audience for tuning in to tonight's program. Talked a lot of football, talked a lot of NBA, epic Luke Walton rant and an MLB. But John, I know that we called you in last minute, but you still came on the air and was able to host the show with me tonight. Thank you so much once again for coming on. But what is your final thoughts for tonight's show?
I just want a quick preview of one of the videos we're going to have for the Isaiah process. Isaiah got engaged last year.
No, I'm done. Anna, I love you so much. You have been the biggest and best blessing of my life. From coming down with me from Canada to move to Las Cruces and support me and support our Aggies. You have been the best girlfriend I could have asked for. Now, I have you.
The rest of it will be showed on That One Dude 2020, a quick show next week before we have the double header next week. And Michael Holst, a producer of the HeardNow.com, who does the producer also for the Inside the Rob Parker podcast, or Colin Coward's the Girls and Out podcast. Man, it's gonna be a really, really fun show here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, he knows a lot of people, but it's gonna be a lot of fun getting to know him and who he is as a person. Maybe a little bit about Colin Coward, and the Chiefs award winning radio host Darren Smith will be coming on to the show. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Like I said, it was literally, folks, a last minute as I'm heading home. Like, I'm hoping I get there right before the intro song ends. It's a lot of fun, despite how exhausted I am from work and everything we had to deal with. But a lot of fun, a lot of football. Remember, Isaiah is engaged to a teddy bear. The full video will be shown on That One Dude 2020 next week, and it's already up on the TikTok page for MI6 Sports Network. And MI6 Sports Network is now on TikTok and getting on more social media platforms. We can get more content for y'all. Again, congratulations to Isaiah. Y'all can go to Build-A-Bear for your honeymoon if you want. With that being said, have a good one, folks. We'll see you soon.
Before you get into the outro, I need to give my final thoughts before we end the show. Let me say this. I'm going to respond to that video before we head out.
No, you're not. We're going to end it right there if you try to respond. No.
My final thoughts is, I want to thank, obviously, the audience for tuning in. James, Christy, Callan even comes off, work to, tune into the show.
Yes.
Really appreciate him, as well as Edward Lee, and also Shardo Gupta. We also had, Ishmael tuned in as well. We had a lot of people tuning in tonight. Really appreciate all of you guys once again for tuning in. But, it was a great program, man. Sorry about that delay that we had, but, we just had some stuff that came up. But No BS will be back on its regular scheduled time at 6:30 p.m. Pacific next week, Friday. This was just a one-time thing at 9 p.m. Pacific, but it was a great show tonight. Go to our YouTube channel if you guys haven't yet. Go check out all the new clips that we have, the short clips that we have, and also go check out, we have the night shift tomorrow. We have the night shift on Sunday. We've got a lot of new stuff that is going to be upcoming here on the network, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, guys, it's been a fantastic episode. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to the show. Have a great night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys on Saturday.
Make sure to send gift cards to Isaiah and his fiance so they can go to Build-A-Bear. Have a good one.
Yeah. 3-6, Mafia.
Yeah.
Whoa, hey, yeah. Whoa,
Say what?
whoa,
3-6 Mafia. It's going down. Y'all know what time it is. We ain't playing with you. In the club.